Good evening, Ray. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing swell for 2021. How are you doing?
I'm doing not too bad. Now, today's episode, we're going to be talking all about the movement that's going to be happening possibly with the 49ers, both in the front office and with the players. And this made me think, Raymond, it made me think of a question. I thought, if you were, and luckily you aren't, but if you were a free agent and you were no longer to be having your services here at the GoldCast, where would you go?
Man, where wouldn't I go is the real question. The first one that comes to mind would probably be the 16:8 cast, which is a Bible reference dedicated to Joe Montana and Steve Young. Really fun guys. I would
Great guys.
also consider going to the Will Clark Also Loves the 49ers cast. Not featuring Will Clark, but we know he's a fan. And I think I would also consider going to the Crab and Sourdough Bowls cast, which is not necessarily a sports centric cast, but they focus on meals that you would eat during 49ers games, be it at home, at the comfort of your own home, or at a tailgate. So yeah, the Crab Louie and Sourdough Cast, the Crab Louie Sourdough Cast.
I like this. I think I would join. I would probably join the Bay Area Sports cast. I would maybe join them. I would strongly consider being a part of their cast.
Good choice.
I would also consider being a part of the red and gold, royal blue and yellow, black and orange cast. I would also consider, this has been a long time offer that I've actually never taken up, but I would join a very small project known as Sour Crimes, and it would be a true crime podcast that stars myself and Sourdough Sam, the greatest mascot in the game. And that's probably it'd be that. The working title is Sour Crimes or True Crimes of Sour. Pick which one you like.
Either one works. You could have two different podcasts with sourdough. You could just have two different podcasts that focus on two different sets of crimes.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy3, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Salisa first, baby.
Boom! All right, here we go. We are back. And today, Raymond, we're going to be focusing on the final press conferences of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Final forever. They're leaving us. No, I'm just kidding. That's not happening. But the final ones for this god-awful, probably one of the biggest letdown seasons in 49ers history. And I say that not in a cruel way. Unfortunately, this letdown... I would say, fortunately for everyone involved, this letdown occurred by injury, by just freak accident constantly the entire season. It never really was done by ourselves, although, our backups did not make this game easy on us at all throughout the year. But this kind of just happened to the 49ers versus, a result of bad coaching or bad playing. And that's the good news. That's actually really, truly the good news. That this team, when healthy, is still easily one of the best teams in football. So, Raymond, let's begin. I'm going to hand this off to you, and let's start by what your just initial reactions and thoughts were. What went down in these press conferences as we head into the offseason and prepare for a lot of unknowns?
Well, we know that some people may not come back to the team, play it. We know that I think it's a foregone conclusion that some coaches are not returning. Some have already left. And some players, even though they're in negotiation talks right now, are definitely not going to return. I mean, on the player side of things, you have on offense, you have Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk. I think the Niners are going to re-sign both of them because you kind of have to. Kyle Juszczyk is a key cog in the Kyle Shanahan offense, and he's actually he became more of more of an offensive weapon this season versus, he was more of a primary, the primary blocker on the team who would flash in the pan every few games. But in this case, because we had so many guys down, that he actually got more offensive action and has proven every time he gets the ball that he's capable of making plays and making yardages, and in the case of this season, scoring. So those are two priorities. On the defensive side, I think the biggest priorities are probably Richard Sherman, Kawan Williams, and Kerry Hyder. I think Richard Sherman is probably going to leave because you can't afford him. And it's cheaper to sign Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett. And they've proven to be capable starters, along with, an occasional Keller Witherspoon on certain packages. And we know that Kawan Williams, slot nickel back injury history would also be less expensive than Richard Sherman. So you could get those guys back without and still be a good defense without a Richard Sherman. Because we know Richard Sherman commands a high salary and the Niners just don't have it. And Kerry Hyder, another guy, had a terrific year. Probably isn't going to get a max deal or anything like that, but proved to be a capable starter with 8.5 sacks, led the team in sacks. I think he led the team in TFLs as well. But so that's another player that's probably, there's a good chance they keep him too. I feel like the only one out of the list that I've given is Richard Sherman. I think he's the only one that's going to end up on the chopping block. I think everyone else comes back. The Niners can do it. Kyle Juszczyk has been a Pro Bowler every single year that we got him, including the year before we got him. On the coaching side of things, Katie Sowers left the team today. It was announced she's been with the team for 3 years. Her contract expired at the end of the 2020 season. It was not renewed. Reports indicate that she left on good terms. So fine, farewell. I don't know how big of an impact she was on the team to begin with. I believe she worked with the linebackers.
But still a huge hire and a really important hire for
a historical milestone. But also in terms of coaching, I mean, I don't think we had a single issue with our linebackers this season. Once again, Fred Warner was healthy the entire time and made the Pro Bowl. Dre Greenlaw was injured a little bit throughout the season, but was mostly there. Nazacha was there. Al Shair played too because of injury, or got some playing time because of other guys being injured. But Fred Warner was definitely there, and Dre Greenlaw, when he's healthy, is a bona fide starter. But we know that the big two coaching potential departures, are going to be Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator, and Adam Peters, the head of player personnel, and also Martin Mayhew to a slightly lesser degree. Those are the three guys that are going to be interviewing, that have already conducted interviews this week. I don't know if they have any more. We know Robert Saleh has more. But those are the three that are going to be, they will leave a void that will be very difficult to replace for the 49ers, unless there's some new talent there that we just don't know. A protege of Adam Peters. We know Adam Peters is going to interview for the vacant GM job over in the Carolina Panthers camp. We know Martin Mayhew has a interview lined up. We don't know what the team is. And we know Robert Saleh has already conducted his interview with the Atlanta Falcons on Monday. The New York Jets have now inquired and added him to the list. And he also has the Jags, the Chargers as well. Out of that whole group, to me, I think the Chargers are the best team to consider out of that group. The Houston Texans have not reached out to Robert Saleh as far as today is concerned. They could reach out tomorrow or over the weekend. Who knows? But
there's a lot of drama going on in Houston right now with the Texans.
There is. There's actually, and we'll get to that in a minute. But as far as that's concerned, or as far as Robert Saleh's potential departures, because I think there's a good chance he does leave. There's just some good vacancies right now that would be a good fit for him. Number one on my list would be Chargers. Number two would be Houston if Deshaun Watson stays. And I'll let you take the reins on what that rumor has been swirling in the NFL circles.
Yeah, so that's a big one. So if you want to, to kind of just diverge for a second with Deshaun Watson, because little bit of Niner mix in there. There's been a little murmurs about the Niners involved in this. Deshaun Watson very upset with the Texans for not discussing with him or asking for his opinion on who the next GM should be. They have hired somebody. The name completely escapes me. But he also...
Nick Casario.
What's his name?
Nick Casario.
Okay.
Nick Casario.
Nick Casario. So the... We're going to Italianize every Italian name that we hear here at the GoldCast. Yeah. That's kind of the rule. So he then got upset because he requested that they interview Eric Bieniemy. Apparently, Eric Bieniemy is not even on the list of who they're going to interview. Why you're not interviewing the number one offensive coordinator that's available to move up, I have no idea. This guy should be number one on everyone's list, in my opinion. And I think that Chargers job is great. But if I was a Chargers GM, I'm going with Eric Bieniemy first and Robert Saleh second. I mean, this is the guy. And and so Deshaun Watson is very upset. There are a lot of rumors right now that he is requesting a trade behind closed doors. And, of course, this links him back to the 49ers. And there have been murmurs and rumors that Deshaun Watson's list of teams he would like to go to, the short list of 49ers are on it. And, of course, that has got 49ers Twitter and 49ers Instagram jumping all over the place at a potential Kyle Shanahan, Deshaun Watson combination. Now, whether or not that actually happens, who the hell knows? But I think it would take a lot for that to happen. But that is indeed part of the rumor mill. But
Houston would want a king's ransom for a Deshaun Watson. You have an elite thrower of the football going with an elite play caller in the league. That is a dangerous combination in a good way if you're a Niners fan, not if you're in anyone outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson pairing with Kyle Shanahan would be monstrous. It would be. He has the mobility that Kyle Shanahan or not the Kyle Shanahan, but that the modern NFL asks for. That's just a fact, and this really started with Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson in this decade. I mean, we have a lot of pioneers that came before that. Steve Young all the way back in the 90s, Brett Favre with his little bit of mobility, Aaron Rodgers with his little bit of mobility, but Kaepernick and Russell Wilson really set the tone and set the groundwork for this movement here in this decade. And now moving into the 20s, you see that occurring again, like really at a full bore. Lamar Jackson, totally. Patrick Mahomes,
and to me, if that was to happen, Deshaun Watson is without a doubt, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in the entire American Football Conference. Second only to Patrick Mahomes. Deshaun Watson can throw deep. He can throw intermediate. He has touch. And being in a program like the 49ers would only hone all of those skills, which is clearly not optimized in Houston because they just don't have a great coaching staff. And right now they're wasting his prime years not getting the right personnel in there to build around him. They had some of that in his first couple seasons, at least on the defensive side, and on the offensive side between DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. Will Fuller couldn't even complete the season and will start next year on the suspended list. And DeAndre Hopkins got traded for next to nothing. Or was he let go?
He was traded. He was traded for the corpse of David Johnson.
Yes, that's right.
Straight up.
Yeah, because that panned out so great for them.
Oh my God! I mean, I remember that last year when David Johnson was quote unquote healthy and back, and he was a top 5 running back in fantasy for the drafts, and I was like, I remember I passed him up. I don't remember who I went for. I passed him up, and then one of my buddies was like, "Really, you're passing up David Johnson?" And I'm like, in 5 weeks when this guy's injured again for the rest of the season, you tell me how great that pickup was for you. And of course, he did not make it through the entire season. But I digress. That's a whole side plot. It really would be. It really would be pretty incredible to get Deshaun Watson here.
We would become the Chiefs of the NFC in terms of offensive explosiveness. And to be perfectly honest, we're pretty darn explosive and very Swiss Army knife, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. But Deshaun Watson is clearly more dynamic than Jimmy. He has mobility. when plays break down, Jimmy will either throw it away, hold on to it for too long, or get sacked. In Deshaun Watson's case, he can scramble outside the pocket. He's good in the pocket. He's good outside the pocket, and he can run downfield to extend plays. So it just gives you a whole nother wrinkle that would really just take this Kyle Shanahan offense to another level. That's with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, both gadget players that are multi-dimensional in their abilities, along with the running back committee, Kyle Juszczyk, and of course the people's tight end, the greatest tight end in the NFC, in George Kittle. Wow is exactly. Wow is the word if Deshaun Watson, if that ever came to happen. But again, the Niners would have to give up first-round draft pick this season, first-round draft pick next year. I mean,
Jimmy G's going with them is going to be
Jimmy G. Yeah, they'd have to give up a quarterback. I mean, you give up a lot. Although, I mean, hey, Deshaun Watson, he's a pretty tough quarterback, much more durable than Jimmy Garoppolo. So if that came down to it, if Jimmy Garoppolo was part of that package, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I would too. It has to be. You're going to give up Jimmy G. You're going to give up your first-round pick this year. We have a really good one. We had the 12th pick in the draft. It would give Houston 2 first-round picks this season. And it's something worth exploring, especially now that it looks like Zach Wilson's stock from BYU has gone up tremendously. Right now, most mock drafts don't even have him getting out of the 6th pick in the draft. He's gone before we get to the number 6 pick. He's gone within the first 5 picks. He's out. His stock has greatly risen this year. So
yeah, I don't think he gets out of the top 10. The Niners would have to trade.
Yeah, we have to trade down. Yeah,
we have to trade. I always get that mixed up. They'd have to trade down to get him,
yeah,
which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Although the Niners do trade to get picks, but one of the goals between last year and this year was for the Niners to help stack up some draft picks, and so it's always a possibility that they trade to get more picks, but they would trade back to get to get 2 first-round draft picks versus what they currently have. So we'll have to see. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to the draft, which is actually not too far away when you really boil it down. But I mean, and Zach Wilson even came out recently and said that he thinks he'd be a good fit for the 49ers. I'm pretty sure he's going to say that about every single team that is potentially going to be seeking him out. It's in his best interest to say positive things, and so there is that. But that's kind of the latest of what's happening there. I think Robert Saleh goes to San Diego. I think he goes to the Chargers, and if Houston gets into the mix, if the hiring of Nick Caserio influences, the interview opportunity for Robert Saleh, then I think either that or the Chargers become the 2 primary destination points. Those are the ones that I was saying just completely off air. We were talking about it through text and things like that. These were the only 2 that made sense to me if I was Robert Saleh, just because both of these teams have pretty good offenses because they already have established quarterbacks. In the Chargers respect, they have a rookie quarterback who's shown to be a extremely capable thrower of the football, and I just did not see that coming. So that is a huge gift for if you are a Chargers fan. But again, you're going to have to go to the Lightning Strikes Twice cast if you want to hear more about the Chargers and all of their quarterback fortunes. There's one or more. I forget what's the other one that you listen to. There
is the podcast formerly known as the San Diego Chargers cast. There is the Los Angeles Superchargers cast. There's those 2. We don't have a lot of beef with them. We don't really interact with the Chargers too much. But
yeah, they're AFC West. So they're on the West Coast. They're on the best coast with us. We just don't run into them very often because they are AFC.
Absolutely. Raymond, let's get back to this. Let's go back to these press conferences. What was your final impression on the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan press conference? What are your final thoughts on that? Because we've talked a lot about the movement, but we have to get back to these press conferences. I want to hear what your thoughts were.
Well, I think first and foremost, I think they were actually relieved to just be done with this horrid of a season. That was one thing. It was kind of like sigh of relief, but at the same time, you still have a plethora of tough decisions to make in all of the aforementioned names that we just went through. And that's not going to be easy for John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. I know they're on vacation right now, but once that vacation is concluded, then they will resume talks. Or I know in John Lynch's case, he's probably gone straight to work. I'm not sure how much of a break he really got because you have people to sign, or maybe who knows? I don't know what's going on over there. But I know that the big takeaway was that that Jimmy is the guy. They believe in him, but at the same time, they're always going to be open to other opportunities if they are there. And
you have to be in the NFL. That's how this game works, unfortunately.
And it seems that they are, they're definitely aware of Robert Saleh's growth as a coordinator, and definitely kind of alluded to the possibility of, losing him this season. And there'd be some candidates to hire either within the organization or outside of the organization. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Because we know sometimes defensive position coaches from other teams will often get promoted to coordinator. James Woods, the defensive back coach of our Super Bowl team last year? I think he's the defensive coordinator for the Browns now. I could be wrong on that. But we know that that's a possibility. So who knows? I thought Chris Kosarek would be a great candidate to bump up as the defensive coordinator. But I think Robert Saleh will probably give some recommendations. I know he recommended the other linebackers coach. I forget his name, but he was mentioned as a possible candidate. I think Kyle basically alluded to the fact that he's going to take a long look at this roster and figure out, who stays and who goes, because some people just can't stay healthy, and it just might not be worth staying invested in them. I mean, they mentioned Dee Ford and praised him and mentioned him as an integral part when he's healthy, but he just wasn't healthy, and he hasn't been healthy since he's been here. Even last year, he was in and out of the lineup with those injuries, and I know it's frustrating for him. And when he's in there, he's arguably one of the burstiest pass rushers in the NFL. But if he can't stay in there, then what's it worth? That, to me, in my opinion, that contract needs to either get restructured, or my other prediction, my first prediction, is that he does not come back to the team in 2021. So that's what I think might happen, because you save cap space to retain some of the other players who are more durable and more, as a result, more valuable than he currently is. So that's what I think as far as that is concerned. I think they're going to obviously consider that motion. And we'll see what kind of calls they take in this offseason for potential trades. I mean, Deshaun Watson's obviously a big one. I would love to see that, but I think it's more of a pipe dream than anything else. But you never know. Crazier things have happened in the NFL, so we'll just have to wait and see. But that was the big takeaway for me, that they are relieved that the season's over, but also, are not going to have too much time to relax, because they have a lot of questions to answer as far as players retained goes, and as far as new coaches goes too. So and new personnel staff goes, drafting personnel staff.
Yeah, to yes and you on that. The as far as Deshaun Watson's concerned, never underestimate the stupidity of another franchise. So you just never know. And
Houston is historically good at that.
Very good at making poor decisions. So who knows? But either way, I want to stay focused on the people that are here. Our unofficial fourth member of the GoldCast, Rudy Jr., our father, he said something off air that I actually completely agree with, that Adam Peters is going to be the hardest person to replace this offseason. The VP of Player Personnel, he was integral in the developing the squads of scouting and putting together the squads in Denver. He has put together 3 Super Bowl teams dating all the way back to Denver's first appearance when they lost to Seattle, and all the way here to 2019 with the 49ers appearance. 3 Super Bowl squads in about an 8-year time span. That is extremely impressive. Makes him one of the most sought out, if not the most sought out candidate that's out there. And I've already said this several times on the show. I think really what the Niners ought to be looking at is looking at the head of scouting for the Chiefs, looking at the head of scouting for Pittsburgh. I really hope that really where our aiming is at, okay, it's like, well, let's grab the head of scouting from one of these big guns and put him in the position Adam Peters was just in. And let's keep the ball rolling at that place. And then, now, we never know how the front office works. So there's very much, I know this is going to surprise many of you on the GoldCast, but we don't actually work for the 49ers. And I know that's a shock. Sometimes you get that impression. You know, I have Jed York on speed dial. I talk to him every day, 5 times a day. That's not true. But but having said that, there is the possibility that there's people underneath Adam Peters that really really have what it takes. But and they're confident with him. But if not, I think really what you do is you pluck one or two of these guys from some of the other big guns, and you give them an opportunity to move up. If they can't move up in their current situation with their current franchise, move them over to the 49ers and give them the opportunity to take Adam Peters' position. And who knows? You know, we already know that Lynch's contract is shorter than Shanahan's, and we all believe the reason for that is if they win another Super Bowl, if they get successful, there's an opportunity for Lynch to move up into another position, and then for the person below him to take his position. And we kind of think that role was kind of being carved out for Adam Peters already to begin with. That's probably the one that
it would have. If they would have repeated, I think that's absolutely what would have been the trajectory of those two roles.
I think you're probably right. I think the chances of that were pretty high. He's probably the one I'm worried about him, but just given that I believe there's other personnel around the league. There's other scouts. There's other people in really high positions at really quality organizations that are available. And if we hire from within, I clearly believe that person will have already shown that they have the prowess and the understanding to fulfill that role. The Niners are a very smart organization. So it's going to be the hardest to fill, but I think it's doable. We just have to kind of really watch carefully as we go through this offseason as to see what they do. A lot of moves to be made. And actually, Ray, I mean, that's kind of exciting. I don't think it's something that as 49er fans you should be nervous about or scared about. I think you should be excited about this. The Niners last year, it was really broken down, obviously. Broken team physically, mentally, emotionally. After such the high of the 2019 season, this is a chance for us to reboot, reload, and come back stronger than ever. And if any team can do it, it's the 49ers. I have absolute faith in this front office. I have absolute faith in the players that are going to stay. We have the opportunity here to reboot and reload, and not in a way that's like a rebuild. We're not rebuilding. We're just rebooting. Sometimes you gotta take your car, put it through the car wash, get a couple new hubcaps, maybe get something new for the stereo, and boom, baby, you're right back in it, and you're all happy all over again. So I think that's really what we're going to see here, Ray.
Totally. And I mean, if you take some onions, some broth, baby, you got a stew going.
All right, Raymond, here is our NFL playoff bracket. Here's what we got. So here's how this eliminator pool works. It's very simple. It's very fun. What it is there's a buy-in to the pool, and what you got to do is you got to pick one team every single week to represent you in the pool. If your team wins, you move on to the next week. If your team loses, you're out. But here's the catch. You can only pick one team one time. So if I pick the Chiefs this week, I can't use them for the rest of the playoff season. Okay, that is it. So let's look at across the board, Raymond, all right? So these are the rules. They're very simple. One team that we go in with. So like if you think you know who your Super Bowl team is, you don't want to pick them now because obviously you're going to need them in the Super Bowl. So here we go. So we've got Bills and the Colts. They're playing each other. Then we've got Steelers and the Browns. And then we have Titans and the Ravens, right? And that's our wild card round for the AFC. Moving over to the NFC, we've got Saints and the Bears. We have Seahawks, Rams. Ooh, I love that. I love two NFC West teams going to eliminate each other first round. It's like a little gift to all the 49er fans. And then Washington and the Buccaneers. So,
God, can't believe the Washington team made it to the playoffs.
The Washington professional football team has made it to the playoffs, Ray. So, Raymond, here we go. Of those teams, if you had to pick one, let me ask you, let's go down the road. Bills, Colts, who do you think's going to win?
Bills.
For sure.
I wouldn't pick the Bills, though.
Wouldn't pick the Bills. Steelers, Browns, who wins? That's a tough one.
It is. It's a division matchup, but with the injuries that the Steelers have right now, they're really kind of only 2/3 at of the previous strength. So I'm going to go with the Browns. They're explosive.
Well, but let's think about this though. But all the coaches have COVID. So a bunch of the coaches
For
aren't.
the Browns?
Yeah, they're not even going to be on the field that day. They actually tried to get the game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they tried to get the game delayed, and the NFL was like, "Nope, you got to go for it." So I personally am going to go with the Steelers.
I guess. I mean, knowing that, I didn't have that context. So yeah, I'll take a stab at Steelers then.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers on this one. So then we have Titans Ravens, another tough matchup.
It's hard to do because the Titans took them last year.
Mm-hmm. And they're both playing at a pretty high clip right now.
Yeah, they are. I just feel like I'm going to go Titans. Titans again with the upset. Knock out the Ravens first round 2 years in a row.
So my heart says Titans, but my mind says Ravens. And I think I'm rolling with the Ravens on this one. I think Ravens with the upset. Okay, let's move over to the NFC. Saints, Bears.
Saints.
For sure.
Bears have been playing really good
but
in the second half of the season, but I don't think they have enough juice to get past the Saints.
No, I don't think so either. Then we have Seahawks, Rams.
God, it's
one NFC team is going to lose.
No matter what.
Yep.
Yeah, no matter what, I will be happy.
No matter what, I will be happy.
I'm going to say Seahawks. McVay just can't get past Carroll, and Shanahan even struggles against Carroll. And at least when his team's healthy, I think it's a pretty even toss-up between Shanahan and Carroll. But currently, with the way these two teams are playing, I got to give the edge to Seattle.
I'm giving the edge to Seattle. Also, Goff's not playing. I mean, he hasn't played great already, but they're on their backup quarterback going into the first round of the playoffs against the Seahawks? No way.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I have tuned out of football. Once the Niners got eliminated, once I lost fantasy, I just said, I'm out of this. Get me out of here.
And then the final one, Raymond, Washington and the Buccaneers.
God, I'm just out of pure bias. I'm going to say the Washington franchise upsets the Buccaneers and sends Tom Brady, pretty boy, home packing. Go back to the beach, buddy boy.
Are you serious? You're serious
Yes.
right now. Unbelievable. I'm going with Tampa Tom. That's Tampa Bay. I'm going with the Buccaneers, formerly the Yuccaneers. Let's go Buccaneers. I'm going with Tom Brady and them Bucks. Now, Raymond, but if you had to pick one team to represent you this week, who would it be? One team. I mean, almost.
So between AFC and NFC,
You just
or
pick
one of
one.
each?
You just pick one for the whole weekend. Not even that hard. You don't got to pick for both conferences. Just one team for the whole thing. Just one team.
Okay. In that case, I'll pick Seattle.
Seattle is your lock. To be honest, I was kind of leaning on Seattle too. I think you go.
They're not going to go, but they're guaranteed. They're probably the most guaranteed win this weekend.
I would honestly. I was going to say them or the Saints. Like or any three teams on the NFC, right? Saints, Bucks, or the Seahawks to me are probably pretty much a lock to win those games. But I think you go Seahawks. You use the Seahawks now. Sacrifice them now because I don't see them going past the divisional round. They haven't got past the divisional round since I think 2015. So. Okay, so there you have it, folks. We are going to go with the Seahawks in our Eliminator pool. If you have Eliminator pool, that is our suggestion. We're saying go with Seattle Seahawks. We are in agreement, Raymond. I agree. We'll see what happens this week. If they lose, I'll be super pissed. But I'll be out first round. But we don't think we will be. And then, Raymond, looking at the Warriors' schedule, it's time for a little bit of Warriors talk. Let's go Warriors talk, baby. Let's do this. Poof. And like that, we're back. Look at that. Look at that, Ray. You look great. You look great with the hands. It looks excellent. All right.
Curry.
So here we go. My Curry is upset. Going, damn. We could have beat these Clippers. Right. We've got 3 games coming up right now. We've got Clippers at the Warriors tomorrow on Friday at 7:00, and then we have another big game against the Raptors, the team that infamously defeated us in 2019 due to health, not due to actual skill. Let's just all make sure that's important. That needs to be known.
Not the better team, just the healthier team.
Healthier
So back-to-back playoff contenders this week.
Back-to-back, and then the Pacers on Tuesday. But looking at this game from yesterday, Raymond, kind of seeing, like I said, a similar thing to our Giants last year, a young, scrappy team, plays hard, is doing well, not pretty good defensively, but just not enough of the offensive firepower necessary to really take a lead and hold it against the Clippers. They did pretty well in the third quarter when Kawhi was out, getting some rest. We saw them actually take a lead. Then they took another lead towards the very end of the fourth, but then again, right at the end, Clippers just pulling away too much offensive firepower, which I think is going to be the story of this team for the rest of the season, unless we as well can make a pretty big trade going forward. But what are your thoughts on Warriors as they go through this little 2-game series with the Clippers?
I mean, before last night's loss and even afterwards, I got to say I feel pretty good. I felt pretty good about a Warriors team that was 4-3 up to this point in the season, and even at 4-4, still 500 is a good place to be for considering what this Warriors team is right now and what they're trying to figure out right now. So early in the season, it's a shortened season by 10 games, so it's still largely going to be a pretty full season minus those 10 games. But in other words, there's still plenty of time for this team to establish the identity with the players that they have right now. And again, can't say enough good things about Wiseman. So it's just a matter of, figuring out who the offensive contributors are going to be when Curry has a night like he did last night, where the Clippers' defensive strategy was just take out Curry and let the rest of the team beat you. Because right now, the defenses are disrespecting the rest of this team. They're saying, hey, if we take out Curry offensively, you guys don't got enough to win. So the challenge now is who or how many people are going to step up to counter punch that punch, which we're going to see more often than not, because everyone knows what Curry can do when he's hot. And even when he's just regular Curry, he's still a very potent and deadly scorer. So when you take away that aspect of his game and force him to just be a passer, players need to take advantage of those opportunities, which we did see a little bit against the Clippers, but not enough to take the lead. They didn't lose by a lot, so it wasn't a large margin. It wasn't a blowout by taking out Curry. So if Curry had a normal, even an average game, an average Curry game with his average shooting, his average points per game, that's a win in the Warriors column. So they're not that far off. It's just that if somebody else can contribute like a Klay Thompson would have, then these games are not so difficult to overcome against these playoff teams. They're actually a better team than these current teams are. But it's just a matter of figuring out who or how many guys. Is it going to be Wiggins? Is it going to be a combination of Wiggins and Pascal and Wiseman? Who is it going to be that steps up to fill the void when Curry gets double teamed and gets shut down like he did the other night?
Yeah, he also started off cold too, and that didn't help anything in that first quarter.
And he tried to take some shots in the fourth, and he was just as cold.
Yeah.
So
he had that one big moment against was it Patrick Beverley at the half court right at the end of the second quarter. That was pretty dope. That was a really dope. That was a super, super dope play. He took that really nice 35-footer right as the clock was winding down to the end of the half. That was a great play by Steph to keep them still on pace with the Clippers. But yeah, this is going to be the question of the season, and unless they can make a big trade, I don't know. Hopefully, players find themselves sometimes. Raymond, it's a long season in the association, and players find themselves, and we've seen before players rise to the occasion and really kind of step up and take themselves to a different level. So there's a big chance that happens here, but we'll see. And the great part is here at the GoldCast, we'll be covering it all year long. So be on the lookout for that. We're definitely going to come back and have conversations. We'll have conversations next week with Candlestick Will about all these games that we see here. All right. We're going to be back, folks. We'll be recording our next episode next Monday. It'll usually drop on Tuesday morning, and we'll see how we did in the Eliminator poll, and we'll see how the Warriors are doing. And, of course, if any big 49ers news happens, we will be here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Go to youtube.com/thegoldcast. And so concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy3 III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
Boom! We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.